Well, everyone, good evening. Good evening. Another Relate Well Live with Dr. Rick. I hope you're having a good evening already, and we're going to have an interesting conversation about the balance between time together and time apart in your marriage and your relationship. Yes, you have to have a balance between the two, folks. Too much time together is unhealthy. Too much time apart is unhealthy. It's called unbalanced. And we have a conversation around that. And question for you as you kind of thinking about this, do you feel you have a good balance between the two? Do you feel that you're spending too much time with your spouse, that they're wanting way too much time of you, that they're demanding more and more of your time to where you start to feel smothered? You start to feel controlled. You start to feel like you can't have a life independent of them. You know, there are some relationships. I saw one today where she's so consumed with him spending time with her that what she's actually doing is, like he said, I want to push her away. And she says, but I just need time. I just need time. I just need time. And she does. She does. Apart from their work, you see, she's longing for connection. He needs time apart. She's needing time to connect. If you spend too much time together, way too much time, that's really unhealthy, because you have to have your own sense of individuality. In the clinical word, it's called individuation. You must be differentiated as a person apart from your spouse. When you spend too much time together, that leads to what's called enmeshment. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a little bit. And if you spend too much time apart, that's too much independence. And then you feel too alone. You feel so very disconnected. You start to wonder, does this person even value me? Does this person want me? Does this person desire me? You see, you have to have a balance between the two, time together and time apart. Now, what that looks like for both of you can be different. All right. And so we'll have a conversation about that. And then how do your personality differences lend towards independence or more dependence, more connection versus more, I need to be by myself or do my own thing. All right. That kind of thing. And so that's something we're going to talk about on this session of Relate Well Live with Dr. Rick Marks. Now, if you're tuning in, I'll be monitoring the Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram right here. All right. So we're streaming live on all three. I'm going to be monitoring them. Feel free to ask a question, make a statement, interact with me. I really enjoy serving others by these lectures that we give on healthy relationships, healthy loving, personal development, relationship development. But what I really enjoy mostly out of it is when you ask a question, make a statement, so that I can tailor the lecture, not for what I want, but also tailor it to your needs, the listener. All right. If no one's listening, this is going to be recorded and it's going to be put out there anyways. What makes it more enjoyable, though, is when we're able to interact with you so that you can get some value out of it yourself. Invite some friends if you're on any of these platforms. Say, hey, listen, Dr. Rick's out there trying to look good. All right. Got a haircut, so I do look better because who else said you like my haircut that I got this morning? All right. So time together, time apart. In relationships, when you enter into a marriage in particular, some people think that when you get married, you're supposed to spend, we're going to have this wonderful, loving marriage. It's going to be so connected, and we're going to be so connected. We're going to spend all of our waking hours together. And when we're working, we'll be thinking about each other, right? And then when we come home, we'll be cuddling and we'll be doing, you get the idea, right? Personally, that's what I thought. I know I was immature back in those days, but that's what I thought. And what I found out after we got home from the honeymoon and life settled in, Luella liked to be by herself some. And she didn't want me too close. She used to say of me in those early days, "You're like a boulder around my neck." Looking back at it, I was so insecure and never really got love and value. I never felt loved or I felt that I mattered because of the way I was raised. And so I'm taking all of that unresolved hurt and pain from childhood and unconsciously, all the things I didn't get, love and intimacy and connection and appreciation and affection, I now unconsciously dump it on her, right? And now you're supposed to make up for what those people back there never gave me. The problem with that thinking is, folks, Luella can never make up for what my parents did not give me. It's actually going to be impossible for her to make up for that. And she was never meant to make up for those things. She was meant to love me as she is. And I need to learn to accept that love as she gives it. We can learn how to love each other better according to our needs, which we have done over the years of our marriage. 38 coming up February 25th. Of this, this month is February 25th, 38 years. You see, we've learned coming from broken homes where we had a lot of hurt and our own issues. It affected our ability to love. But I had these expectations, right? I had these expectations of what it was going to look like. And you know what? The expectations that I had didn't pan out, as they say, right? The only expectations that are actually healthy in a marriage and a relationship are the expectations that you both agree to. Did you get that? It's the expectations you both agree to. Any other expectations are yours that you brought with you into your adult life, into your marriage, that you have based on your history and based on how you want things from your experience in life. But that doesn't mean that Luella has to honor those or I have to honor her expectations. Got it? The only expectations are the ones you both agree to. This is why we say and relate well that your level of frustration will be equal to your level of expectation. If you expect your spouse to have affection and sexual affection with you every day, you're probably going to be disappointed if it's not their expectation. It's your expectation coming from your history, but you're going to impose it on them and you're going to create problems. You see what I mean? So the only expectations that are healthy in a relationship are the ones you both agree to, which is why communication is so essential to intimacy. All right. And so you've got to get to know each other. What are your thoughts? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What do you hope for? What are things you expect in this area? What are things that I expect in this area? And then we work together. We work together to find a way to meet those expectations so that we both win, so that us wins. Everything we do and relate well is based on the principle of what's best for us. When us wins, you both win. Us loses, you both lose, you see. And so that's how we do things in our world, all right? But healthy relationships research shows you've got to have a balance between time together and time apart. Now, if you spend too much time together, research calls those unbalanced relationships, unless, of course, you both are looking for it, right? That you want to exclude everybody else in your life, and it's just me and Luella and no one else. And every waking moment, we want to be around each other all the time, and we're never going to be apart from each other. In those kinds of relationships, they become actually heavy dependent on each other. A sense of independence is gone. These relationships, loyalty is above everything. There's too much emotional connection. In the clinical world, these relationships are called enmeshed. ENMESHED. In the simpler terms, you are way too connected. You are overly connected, as Dr. David, I forget his name, from the Prepare and Rich. Dr. Olson would call it. They're overly connected, but the clinical word is enmeshed. I was enmeshed with my father. I had no sense of self growing up. My father was my idol. My sense of self was rooted in what he thought and felt about me. If he felt that I was good, then I felt good about myself. He felt that I wasn't good enough, then I didn't feel good enough. You see, so my excuse me, my sense of self was linked to him. And so I had no sense of independence. I had no sense of self because everything was wrapped up in him. And take what I'm about to say with goodwill, looking back at it. Now, he died 2 weeks before I got married. All right. Looking back at it, had he lived, since I could not say no to him, I would have allowed him to destroy my marriage. He was already making decisions that he wanted, that he expected me to make, that were already hurting Luella. And so looking back at it, because I had no sense of self, completely enmeshed, too much time, all right? Everything's about my dad. It's about my dad. It's about my dad. And sometimes in your marriages, you spend so much time together, eventually you lose your individuality. What makes you different from that person? You see, you need to have time together. But when one person wants a lot of time together and the other doesn't, then the one that doesn't want as much time as the other one, they're going to feel smothered, which is exactly how Luella felt. She felt smothered by me. It's like, get back, Jack. I guess we could make that a rhyme, right? It's like, get back, Rick. And part of her started to wonder, do you have any sense of self? Why is your sense of self wrapped up in who I am? And so therein lies the problem, folks. Therein lies the struggle. Because if you're overly connected, so enmeshed, too much time together, you lose a sense of who you are as a person. So your identity gets wrapped up in the relationship and that other person, what they think about you, how they feel about you, et cetera, et cetera. And that's considered an unbalanced relationship, right? Now, the other extreme is called overly disconnected, all right? This is high independence. There's very little emotional connection here. And the other is too much emotional connection. Here, there's little to none, and there's not a lot of loyalty. In overly connected relationships, enmeshed ones, if someone is feeling hurt, then I feel hurt. If they feel happy, then I feel happy. And if they feel sad, I feel the saddest. I don't want to feel the saddest, so I cheer them up. Why? Not because I'm really cheering them up. I want to cheer them up so I don't feel it. But it's all unconscious to you because we're just one giant emotional blah. Now, the other extreme, overly disconnected, if you're struggling and you're depressed, I wouldn't know. Why? We have no emotional bond. I wouldn't be aware. I couldn't sense it. Why? Because we have no emotional connections. High independence. And when there's high independence, there's very little to no emotional bond. And it's high in independence. So there's little loyalty to the relationship. On the other extreme, there's a lot of loyalty to the relationship. Even when you need to learn to stand on your own, you don't, because you give up your sense of self. Over here, I'm not giving up myself for the relationship. And both of these are unhealthy. What you need is in this middle, you need this balance, okay? You need to have a sense of connection, but you need a sense of independence. Get that? You need a sense of connection, but you need a sense of independence. Now, my personality, you can think about your personality. Do you tend to want more connection or more independence? All right. My personality style is I want more emotional connection. So I tend towards I want more emotional connection. What I had to learn to do to become healthy is I had to learn to stand on my own, be my own person at the same time, a measure of independence. So some people in the balanced world want more connection, but they do have a sense of independence, all right? They do have a sense of we're close, but I'm still me. Some people, though, want a sense of closeness, but they like being more them, Luella, in those early days. Got it? The problem was because I was so on one extreme and she's more this way, I took her independence as you don't love me. I'm not important to you. You see, you like other things. You don't care about me. That's how my brain would read it. Her brain read my overload connection as you were so controlling, you were so smothering, you were weak. And it was our personalities because I wanted more connection. She liked more independence. And what we had to do is find a way so that I could have connection and she could have her independence without being smothered, right? So I had to respect those boundaries there. But she also had to recognize, wow, I married a guy who is more emotionally needy, right? There's nothing wrong with that. We all have 10 relational needs. We in Relate Well call them the cares needs. All right, they're hardwired into the right side of the brain, which is the emotional brain. Those needs must be met, just like food, air, water, shelter. I'm more in touch with that part of my brain. Luella was less in touch with that part of her brain. And because she's less in touch with that part, she moved mostly towards independence and disconnection. I was more in touch with it. I moved more towards wanting the connection. But because I had this poor, unhealthy sense of self, it became smothering, all right, enmeshment. Hers became too independent, so it was hard to bond to her. And in that posture with her actually even played itself out in parenting, where when one of the kids, my oldest, he's younger, when he was hurting and struggling, her harshness or her independence came across as, I don't care, suck it up, get over it. And therein lies the problem, folks. You need to find the balance between time together and time apart. In other words, if you think about it this way, all humans have to bond in 4 areas, emotionally bond in 4 areas. You have to be bonded to yourself emotionally, all right? You got to have a healthy sense of self. That's an emotional connection to you. You got to bond to your spirituality, all right? For some, it's religion, but you all have a spirituality. You've got to bond it to God. You also have to bond to your family and friends, and you need to bond to a community outside of that, right? It could be a church. It could be a remote control airplane group. It could be a crochet group. It could be a mother's of preschooler group. You need to bond in all 4 areas, and you need to have a balance in all 4. You see, that means there are times where I want to go hang out at a Civil War or a Revolutionary War battlefield. And I need to be able to have that time, going to do that with guys who enjoy that with me. All right. Same time, though, Luella's like, hey, I want you to go to the beach with me, or I want you to just spend some time with me. I need to be able to do that as well. Luella needs to spend time with her girlfriends and without feeling guilty, because I'm doing something at home, making her feel guilty, like, oh, you care about them more than me. That may not be true, but that's how my brain will take it in that enmeshed world. Okay. If you're joining me right now, I want you to feel the freedom to ask a question, make a statement. All right. I like this to be interactive. So I noticed that Kimberly wrote here, oh my goodness, this is my husband and me. Thank you. You're welcome. Find the balance. Do things together, but make sure you have time apart. And if one person wants more together time and one person wants more a separate time, you just got to have time together and you communicate about what that's going to look like. All right. You may have to communicate about it weekly. So you maybe schedule it, schedule that for yourself, so that you know what it looks like. You know what it's looked like. I was a smothering guy in those early days, you see. And so because of that, it tended to push her away from me. I just read that as you don't care about me, because her independence and her lack of emotional connection, my brain took as a threat. I was insecure. My brain interpreted it as, you don't love me, I'm not good enough, you don't value me. In reality, she did. It just wasn't her personality style to be more bonded. You see that kind of thing. And so when you get a relationship going, you got to make sure you have a balance between these 2 things. All right. Now, your personality is going to affect that. We've already kind of laid some of that groundwork. So when your personality is making those differences, this is why communication is so important, folks, because then you must communicate what your needs are what's happening inside of you, what is your brain telling you, and then you got to find ways to connect and have independence in a way that honors us. Everything we do in the world of relate well is not about the husband or wife. It's about us. When us wins, you both win. When us loses, you both lose. You see, living for yourself is easy. It's primal. You don't think about it. But because couples in the United States don't live for us, they live for themselves, no wonder we have such brokenness. The higher way of living life is living for us. And so us needs to figure out, what does that balance look like? And guess what? There are times that you need more time together. I have learned that there are times that Luella needs more independence than dependence. Got it? Sometimes, let's say she's going through something, Luella usually will process her pain by stepping back and thinking it, praying it through, and pondering. She doesn't want me to go, oh, she's like, back away, I need space. Where if I'm going through something, I want that. We're just different that way. And so you have to respect that difference, but you got to communicate that. I remember 6-7 years ago when Luella's father died, and she was saying, the way you can help me best right now, because she was in High Springs, the way you can help me best. See, I want to be there for her. I want to be next to her. I want to be around her. I want to be supporting her. And she said, if you really want me to support, I need you to do these things at the house. I need to keep this going for me. I need you to go do that wedding. I need you to do those things you said you're going to do. I need this stable here. And I went, okay, that's how I come for you. She says, yes. If you'll do that, then I'll feel comforted and supported. That would not be Rick Marks, folks. That would be like, come over here, hold me, and I'll be crying. We're just different. That's all it is. It's a difference. It's all it is. Don't see the differences as a threat. This is where communication becomes essential, because your personalities are different. So you must communicate your needs, what you want and what you don't want, so that you can find that balance through the challenges of life. You see, I'm thinking, her dad died. I need to be there. She's like, well, you are, but I need you over there doing those things back in Jacksonville. No, I'd be here with you in High Springs. No, I need you doing this because it allows me to not think about those things, and I can focus on the things I got to do for my dad's estate and all that. I'm like, okay. And I didn't take it as a threat. But by this time, we're a strong us, and I recognize, hey, if that's what you need, I'll do it. One thing I learned about my bride is she will tell me what she wants and what she doesn't want. She's always been that way. And I really, really appreciate that about her. All right. And so this is where you have to just start working through the differences in personality. Communicate well. Communicate well. All right. And remember, you need time to come together. And there are times you need apart. Too much of one or the other is not good. It's unhealthy. Did you get that? It's not good. It's unhealthy. You need a balance right here in the middle. Some people like more independence, but they have a level of connection. Some people want more independence. I mean, more connection, but they still have a level of independence. Got it? That's okay. Those are more the extremes of the balance side. It's way out here where it's unbalanced, too much of one and too much of the other. That's where couples get themselves in trouble, because the level of cohesion, the level of connection, the level of closeness is a predictor for distress in relationship. You see, we need to have that emotional bond. Yet at the same time, let's be honest, people don't get married to lose their sense of self. You get married believing we're going to get married, have this wonderful connected sense of usness, but I'm still going to be Rick and she's still going to be Luella. And that's the greatness of marriage, that I get to be the best version of me. She gets to be the best version of her in the context of an us. And that's the great mystery of us, that the more you become one flesh, the more you become an us, your individuality emerges in a very healthy, mature way. So you can think about your relationship. Too much time together, too much time apart, unhealthy. Find a balance. Your personality differences are just differences. Some want more time together, some want more independence, those kind of things. What you do, though, is you navigate through those by communicating. What's the need? What do you want? How can I serve you right now? All right. And sometimes doing things together means you go to places that you wouldn't necessarily go to. In other words, you've heard it before. I don't like malls, but us likes the mall. Us will go to a mall because that's a connection time, right? For Llewellyn in a place that she enjoys. Us will go to a battlefield. That's where I enjoy. We're different in that way, you see. But she'll join me in that, and we'll have a connection through that experience, you see. Yet there's also times that I want to go to a battlefield without Llewellyn. I'd rather go with my brother or some friends of mine that enjoy history. Why? It's a different experience when we're there because we're scoping out where this was and that was. I'm looking forward to going to some of the battlefields of World War I and World War II in Europe, and just looking at some of those down the road too. You see, I'll do those without Llewellyn, of course, because that would not be an us trip. Or if we go together, she'll go shopping, I'm sure, or looking around. I'll go to the battlefields. All right, Normandy. Can you imagine that? Oh, wonderful. So, anyways, I think you get the point. Time together, time apart. Balance them. Too much of either is unhealthy. Your personalities, some like more independent, some like more dependence, more connection. Not good or bad. It's just different. How you express them is the issue. Communicate well. Talk about those needs. What do you need? What do you need? How can we do this? In so doing, you'll have a good balance. You'll have that good balance. You won't be too much in the extremes, and us will thrive. And in the world of relate well, in the world of which I counsel, when us wins, you both win. When us loses, you lose. Well, this is another Relate Well with Dr. Rick. I hope this has been helpful and encouraging. And if you believe that this has been good and you've enjoyed it, pass it on along. All right. And for those who are interested, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, Friday at 8 o'clock, we close the store on the Healthy Communication Challenge. Joining the class with me, we're only taking 50 people for a Relate Well online class. All right. And so if you're interested, go to Healthy Communication, thehealthycommunicationchallenge.com, or go to Healthy Communication Challenge Facebook page. Find the links there. Go to those links. Purchase the Relate Well online curriculum for you and your spouse, you and your boyfriend, girlfriend. And we will be going through it together as a class. Seats are limited to 50. Come join us. It's a greatly reduced price. Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.